take on the world. We're gonna take on the world. Standing tall, we gotta make it our own. No waiting around. Winners would never look down. No one can stop us, we got it. The future is right in our hands. Give it 100%. We gonna take on the world. Yeah, we gotta move. Speaking the truth. Yeah, paying our dues. We making the news. Yeah, we hitting the roof. No, we don't wanna lose. Climbing and shaking the walls. We gotta break all the rules.
For more awesome content, like and subscribe now.
All right, guys, we are live. Third Eye Truth Theorem Podcast back at you again. It is the remake of episode 28. I want to apologize for the last few episodes because, first of all, we had technical difficulties with the 28th episode, and the 29th episode, more technical difficulties. But nevertheless, everything will come to fruition. We will definitely get everything in order. All right, now we get back to the 28th episode, the Biden deception. I want to introduce my guest. He's a painter, artist, musician, and he has all the tools to talk about politics. So we're going to get into this Biden deception. I want to introduce my good friend, Eric Bradford.
Thanks, James. Good to be here.
Oh, no problem, brother. That shot sound like this. But we're going to get into it, guys. First of all, I know there's an echo going on here. You hear it? A little bit. All right. Going to get into it. All right. Now, after all the smoke is settled, we have a Democratic nominee, Kamala Harris. Trump's been at his old crafty work again.
That's right. Oh man, he went back into nasty mode again.
Yeah.
Got JD Vance talking about cat ladies and all of that. Yeah, they're definitely trying to find their line of attack right now.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, you know what? I think they're something the media and them have been kind of attaching to and running with, other than trying lawsuits.
Yeah.
The classic mode, try to use the legal system, but they get on the border thing, and so I mean that might be something where on her end she's gonna have to definitely have a little bit of a comeback about, but you know that's all, you know, it in the last one, the pre 28 when we talked about some of that in that episode, you know, there's always the noise in the media, you know, versus what's probably actually going on, and you know, people getting caught up in hysteria or getting, you know, as much as we try to not get caught up in the whole the hype going on in the talking heads of all the media, you know, it's like what's going on underneath, and kind of
Well, there's a lot going on underneath. Zach, can you show some of those photos that's put up? You can't see them, Eric.
Right.
Show the most iconic one that we have, the flag with Trump being carried off the stage. That will be set in the minds of all Americans for years to come. And not only that right there, I think that one picture, the one with the flag with them, you've seen the one you're painting.
Yeah, I was gonna say, ironically, and I had a friend say, "Oh, you really need to paint that."
Yeah.
And at first, I'm like, you know, I don't want to help make a martyr out of the guy. But it is true that artists are recorders of history. And I think I mentioned it last time. Theodore Momsen, in one of his quotes, he did the fall of Rome and known for many quotes in the subject. And what one that struck me was the historian is closer to the artist than the scholar. I think I
Right.
got that right. So when I saw that quote, it's like good or bad. We do have a duty as artists to kind of put down these historical moments.
Yeah.
So I've got a twist on one, and I'll be posting on social media. And like I said, it might be a fitting addition to your studio here too. So when I get it done, I'll definitely let you take a look. And
I'll do it. I'm looking forward to that. You showed me the rough draft of it.
yeah.
I mean, my microphone sound. I can't even hear myself. My microphone. Some more technical difficulties. Sorry, guys. Sounds like an echo.
I need more James in my snare.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. Does that work? No. 4, 2. All right. Let's keep going.
All right.
So the picture, like I said, is an iconic picture. There are other pictures that are going to be etched in my mind. The one with the security guards around them, the shorter female security guard,
Yeah.
which is a lot of people making fun of that. They were like I know most like the Keystone Cops.
Yeah. Right.
Running around, they couldn't put the guns back in the holsters properly. Maybe it's a little too much for them, a little sensory overload.
Yeah. I mean, it's got to be quite a lot to go through in the moment.
Yeah.
I mean, you train for these things, but you're not really expecting, somebody to breach all those layers of security,
Yeah.
let alone be able to climb onto the roof of that barn or whatever, that building that was about 200 meters off or whatever.
Actually, it was 159 meters.
Yeah. Okay.
Somewhere around there.
And
Zach, if you can show that picture of the you got it. Okay, good. If you guys are looking at this right now, it's a picture of the whole circumference of the perimeter actually of the area they were guarding, and the roof is not too far away from it.
right.
So it was like 159 meters or yards away from where Trump was.
Yeah. And no, just to be able to get up there. And there have been a lot of reports. And what gets crazy about it is I try to wait for the official reports. And I know a lot of people like to talk about deep state,
Right.
and they talk about like where you can't trust the FBI or you can't trust this. And I mean, frankly, I'm more compelled to trust that versus, somebody in their basement. And one thing, or even for that matter, they interviewed a high school kids or everybody that went to school with him and all of that business. And, they say he was a loner and this, that, and the other, or that like his gun training that he couldn't even hit a target. So they asked him not to even come back, I mean, I'm sure there's credibility to it. But I guess if this whole thing is a conspiracy, like some people suggest, and depending on what side of that yesterday reports that
Right.
it's either a bullet or a bullet fragment, but in some case it's a bullet. It's like, all right, well, I mean, now even from those avenues, they're not even clear about it
Yeah.
per their investigation. And then you got Ronnie Jackson in his doctor's note, it's like, oh, but I mean, he's not even a physician right now. And then they don't release the hospital report. So it's like, you can assume anything and assume any conspiracy theory you want, but unless you're there, I mean, you really don't know. So,
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, it's good to just kind of set back on it and think in sober mind about it.
There's a lot of I don't know, talk about different people that organizations that were involved. Number one is BlackRock.
Yeah.
The video of old Thomas Crooks on BlackRock was it raised the eyebrow to a lot of people. Why was he on that? Number one, and who's behind it is my questions.
Right. Well, and then discerning mind, because it is peculiar in these things how we find these webs of connections.
Yeah.
Like anything from this to, and there's a million in my head that are swirling around, but I think a Sandy Hook or other alleged false flag incidences, or I mean the Boston bombing where they're making relations of the backpacks
Right.
and all of that and what organization those would come from. But back to this one, like the BlackRock thing comes up, and there again, it's peculiar that they're connected. But then I think of a couple things. All right, if it's a deep state operation, and this guy allegedly can't hit a target, why would you hire the guy?
Exactly.
Unless you don't want Trump to die,
Right.
for one. And then not only that, why would somebody pick somebody from your own video where you know that there's going to be this trail of evidence going back to this person if it's supposed to be a secret conspiracy, even if you shoot the guy and you're going to plug him out like a patsy. You know what I mean?
That was the key word that I was thinking of, patsy,
right?
Because it reminds me of the JFK shooting. They had one lone shooter that shot him from a book depository building
right
at an angle with a moving car.
Right.
This lone bullet shot him. It went through him, and the was a senator in the front of Texas.
Yeah, I forget.
A governor, I think it was. That may have been governor.
Yeah, and I forget the details off the top of my head.
But this lone bullet that went through all this dense bones, and through these body parts, and it ended up pristine condition in a coffin.
Yeah. And then, because I mean, point blank, you almost have, but, and I'm no expert on ballistics and velocity.
Yeah.
It just seems like, something traveling a distance, it's gonna, lose some impact and lose, that force to be able to stay online once it goes through, one body or, the skull or whatever, and end up right online to the next target. And, and that's what's interesting. Or even for the FBI, I think, to be able to not go outright and say that it was not even a whole bullet, even if they backtrack. I don't want to say backtrack, but clarify Ray's original comment that it could have been shrapnel to say it could have been a bullet fragment. It's like, okay, well, what? And again, I don't know how these things can happen, but how could a bullet, from the muzzle of the gun end up fragmented before hitting the president's ear, ex-president's ear, unless it hits something else. And I don't know if these bullets can just implode in midair, which, okay, if that's the case, then how's it going to nick his ear? And I don't know if you saw some of the footage from Netanyahu's visit to Mar-a-Lago, or even the Turning Point America speech that Trump did last night. But his ear is like intact, it's like, wow, it's only been 2 weeks.
Exactly. That's what drew me. I mean, it made me second guess it, because when I watched the video, I mean, I watched it over and over again. When he got shot, when the bullet, the first shot was fired, he kind of did this like little jerk almost. Then the second was fired. He grabbed his ear, if you're shot through your ear and skin rips, flesh rips, you're going to get instant blood from that.
Right.
Grabbed his ear, and you can see it in the video. There's no blood on the hand.
Right.
None whatsoever.
And I didn't know if my eyes deceived me or not, but you watch it and it's like, I mean, I mean, I've been cut more superficially too, you
And
know.
then bled instantly.
And for anybody listening at home, now keep in mind, we're just speculating. We're not, you know, it's not like anybody in here has the answer, you know, but, you know, these are just some common sense questions you have to ask. And I've watched some of these ballistic or, you know, tests that they've done on YouTube.
Yeah.
I've seen the one with the latex head, and I've seen
skull,
ones where they've done it with the cardboard just to show it kind of nick the cardboard to kind of, you know, resemble the environment and how an ear is attached, and that, you know, it's just a flap of skin. And but then you've had experts say that just the velocity and the force and the air displacement that happens from the bullet would cause some kind of damage or potentially to there again, just a flap of skin. Like it would be more damaging. It would and it's just, you know, to me, you have to weigh all those things out. And you know, you have a lot of YouTube experts that go on and do their experiments and everything, but really it's like, you know, here it's almost like and you were mentioning about another topic earlier before we started, but that sensory overload. You know, that and you know, and I believe and have for a long time, like it's the pros and cons of having all this information at our disposal and having so much media at our disposal. Not to mention, I've got this thing about media. I'll try to break it down without getting into some word salad about it. But it's like with social media and okay, with social media, and let's not just think about it in the traditional sense. It's everybody communicating, but people mix up the definition of media. Like people confuse just the word media with being the news, and the content of media can be communication, entertainment, news, what have you. But it's actually the vehicle is the media. Your phone is the media, whatever. But it like, so the information that people are sharing on social media, which nothing is free, even though you have this social environment where everybody can talk, and, you know, and whether you're on a social media platform that disallows or allows what they consider misinformation to be, that's based on the advertisers paying for it. Or if you subscribe to something now, okay, with Twitter X, he wants subscribers, and all these subscribers are free speech. I should be able to say what I want, blah, blah, blah. Okay, well, that's fine. Well, now you're paying $2 to hear what you want to hear. It's not even like it's free information at this point. But to get kind of back on track with the point then, and we live in a world where Fox and all these news organizations put entertainment in their name. So now there's no checks and balance. Like nobody has to tell the truth. There's no journalistic integrity that with the things that people are sharing, or, you know, and now you have people that are sharing things that they're not practicing journalistic integrity if they're sharing news and information to call fact, you know, and you can always fall back. Well, I even did it. I was, you know, JD Vance is a couch fucker. It was hilarious. But, you know, then like you go back, it's like, well, you know, he didn't actually say it in Hillbilly Effigy, but it's still hilarious, you know. But then in my responsibility, I know personally, I will correct myself about things. And I guess the whole point of it is when we're in this media circus where people, even Donald Trump, it's like there's no accountability for him to tell the truth. Like his whole campaign, he can lie and be held not held accountable even by the corporate media. like they should be grilling him about how much he lies, but they normalize that. So now we're talking about these assassination attempts and uh, uh, fucking, all these claims about candidates and things like that, and it's all for entertainment,
Yeah, yeah,
and people confuse the two.
yeah. So, um, with that being said, we after Trump's being shot, I mean, he's back on the campaign trail. Went to the RNC with the ear sleeve on. Uh, Introduces his running mate, JD Vance. This guy looks like a better version of his son.
Yeah, JP Mandel.
He looks like a better version, a more polished version of his
Yeah,
son.
yeah. Like the Hollywood version of
Yeah.
Don Jr. if you were going to cast a movie.
But not only that, people are giving him flack for his wife's ethnicity.
Right.
She's of Indian descent. Does that go along with American morals and values?
I don't think it should. Um, people. There's a lot of hypocrisy in this country right now, though. It's like if she were on the other side of the aisle, she would be a DEI wife,
Yeah.
or be labeled as a tool or whatever. There's a lot of hyperbole about that comes from each side, and it like even with the uh like talk with Kamala Harris and her sexual history. And like you even had one of the Fox hosts, she's the new Hawk Tuah girl, like she's so it's funny, but it's like as far as anybody knows, though, she was only screwing around with Willie Brown.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like that opened up the whole world, but
Zach, if you could throw up a picture of Willie Brown, the older gentleman on the it's a younger version of a Cal Miller.
wow, I'm guessing right on all this stuff.
Yeah,
all right. Yeah. We didn't rehearse this.
No. I plan to put this together. So
yeah. You're the
you
man,
see,
though. You're the man.
If you could put that on the screen real fast, yeah. That's Willie Brown. That's the way she got into politics. She was the assistant DA.
And I think because I just read it yesterday.
She was the DA of San Francisco at that point.
And before that, she got appointed to a lower position, though, like in some bureaucratic position that wasn't even. I'm pretty sure God, I can't remember it now. I just read it, but so anyways, I apologize for bringing it up, but not having the detail fresh in my mind. But yeah, and it was even a lower position, and I'm not saying this to defend her or like defend aspects of her record that are questionable that people should question, and and this statement goes for both sides where. Or anybody when we're in these debates, there's a couple things that I'm kind of turned off by. People will say, phrase a question leading off. Well, whataboutism is an obvious one, but then there's so what you're saying is blah blah blah. Insert your hyperbolic comment. Or whatever accusation somebody wants to say, like if you use a keyword of an argument and they assume you're either a liberal, like if you're anti-Trump, oh well, you must be some leftist, this, that, or the other, which I think that became just like DEI is becoming the substitute for using N words or sexual orientation insults and things like that. Because I mean, people start really throwing the word around when they couldn't call Obama what probably they wanted to call him.
Exactly,
oh, you liberal, it's
right.
like, oh, whoa, say it with a little more gusto, and that's not to accuse everybody who uses that term, but I was making a point here. I wish people would make these arguments without like making a mountain out of molehill, like putting like magnifying the fault of somebody. Like it's not bad enough, okay, that it can't just be like in Kamala Harris's case that she was with Willie Brown while he was technically still married or whatever, even though they were open about it. Well, now she had to sleep with 100 people, and it's like, just stick with the one thing. Or like when they talk about the border, there are mistakes made with the border by a number of people. It's not like one person, like even the media running with this border czar thing, but she's just doing some diplomatic work for it. But there's other people in charge of that, other people making decisions, and you may not like somebody's take on the border, but now we're calling one whole side communist. It even works the other way when they're pinning Donald Trump as the fascist. And when we get into these isolated idealistic arguments, we lose sight of the bigger picture. For instance, to bring it back to someone and something we talked about, Larry Fink and BlackRock, it's like, well, Donald Trump didn't have a problem bringing Larry Fink in as the economic expert to come back from COVID.
Yeah.
So if he's so anti-deep state and so against all of these things, why would he hire that guy?
Exactly.
Or why would he not get rid of Jerome Powell? Or, why would he even bring Steven Mnuchin in to be the treasurer?
Yeah.
It's just, we have to take a step back, and that's it. Why do we think that like the corporate media would repeat these messages? I mean, because what controls everything? The media is corporate owned. The Koch brothers influencing the Federalist Society, or all the people that influence the Heritage Society, the people that influence Open Society. Let's get a little leftist with it, just to be fair, But then they make George Soros a household name. Well, I mean, he was working with Trump on his buildings and stuff at one point.
Yeah.
And, they had a falling out, but that's the whole point. It's like they kind of control everything. So when they try to pigeonhole it that it's this the DNC or the lobbyist mechanism, and it's just on the left side of the government, it's like, well, these people bought Donald Trump out of debt. Globalist corporate oligarchs have bought Trump out of debt since 1987. I think I made a point about this before on the last one. It's like, if I owe somebody $100, I'm not telling them what to do.
Yeah,
I owe them a favor,
exactly.
And they're all buying access, and one reason that they by a guy like Donald Trump, or it could be anybody who's just willing to give access to these people, or willing to push laws through. He's a good salesman. In America's for sale, why is it always half the time it's either a legal expert or it's a real estate agent that they're trying to buy to make decisions about the things that affect us? It's people have to look at it a little bit deeper and separate their emotions and think a little.
And there's a lot of emotion running behind all of this. I see so much on social media that people go back and forth. I put a post up about tipping in cash, and it went into politics.
Right.
Instantly. Trump is going to get rid of income tax or tax on wages, and no, he's not. It's fake news, and people often use the term fake news so much that it's like a part of our vocabulary right now. With that being said, you said something about the heritage. What was it?
Heritage Society.
Yes, society. The new book that's not new, but it's been around for a while. The policies, the mandate, 2025.
Yep.
It has a lot of different things for the conservative, who's ever conservative, whether Republican or Democrat. A new mandate on different policies that's going to be ran in this country. Some of them are a little shaky.
Yeah, definitely. And it's not to paint a bad picture of anybody or to hit anybody personally. We are a republic, and if you ask me, I think a democracy and a representative democracy is the best way to go. But then you see these traditionalists that really want to attack that concept. I mean, you've heard And you can go back and find sound bites where people have openly said that maybe democracy should end. Hey, you let the path of where they come from determine, the partisanship of that. I'm not going to sit here and blame it all on the right. But if you follow the path of where that message comes from, just like Heritage Society and Project 2025, I mean, it comes from this kind of self-righteous, religious, uh, Christian, nationalist kind of group of people. And sorry to say, but those are the people that become MAGA. And and I kind of want to touch on it, on the word racism and how it fits into the whole thing, because people see racism as just being about ethnicity or being black and white in this country and things like that. But really, racism is an agenda that's deeper than that. It's about fracturing a majority into smaller pieces so that a group can dominate. And that could be anything.
Mhm.
So you look at what's happening with the MAGA movement and all these variables that are in that, and all the variables that say back Project 2025 and that. It's like, people throw around this whole white Christian nationalism, or, white supremacy and everything that, but it's really just people that want power. So it's almost like this, like when you see the construct of MAGA, from how it flowed from 2016 to going through the QAnon conspiracies to where it's at today, there's a mechanism how they've organized all of this. And you had smaller groups willing to tolerate each other to make this movement that becomes the MAGA movement. And at this point, now it's kind of pulled in Christian nationalism, which isn't just white churches, it's certain black congregations, and
Yeah.
it's all these different beliefs that, to them, I think they kind of feel like whatever this larger whole is, yeah, they can paint it like it's Americanism and American pride, but I think they see, some of them, see that there's this corporate takeover happening, and they see themselves as getting on the winning team with it all. They want, like, how did I say it before? It's like people are selling a really great view on the Titanic from their lifeboat. And all these people are like, oh yeah,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
here, give me my ticket. And they're about to go down with the ship, but all these, more powerful people are just going to stay afloat from their lifeboat in it all. But that's kind of how the MAGA movement does become kind of dangerous, in the sense that they're really just a loud minority. But if they can fracture the whole of democracy, which again, it's a representational government, it's equal representation for everybody. But if you can find ways to break that apart and fracture that, now you've given a minority group power, or a better chance for power, by breaking that hole. And that's what a lot of these, I mean, whether Project 2025 can succeed or not through this election, which, I mean, this election would bring forth a lot of dangerous plans
Yeah.
that would set decades of equality back, decades of, services for disparaged groups, like, back. And I mean, they've already, like, done damage with Roe versus Wade. I mean, even whether people say the presidential immunity thing that the courts were just influenced and passed through is, just isolate. Oh, just the Constitution says this, that, and the other, and it kind of throws it back to the states. Well, okay, it seems like that, but if it were that simple, they wouldn't have to write, a dozens page order outlining these conditions
Yeah,
then,
yeah.
so now you've actually confined what the idea of presidential immunity is, and what evidence is usable and everything, by putting, some kind of opinion on it by the courts. I know I'm kind of getting a little off track the way I do, but
And all, I mean,
kind of bring it
it
in.
bring- yeah,
But
yeah.
but it's interesting. It's just food for thought for people to think about.
Yeah.
I have no right answers, but I mean, these are the things that people have to think about. And I know I've done a lot of research on things over the years. I've gone down a lot of rabbit holes and come back out, and I can seem kind of arrogant about what I know sometimes, but I think part of that is my willingness to be corrected, things like that, and willingness to see things in a different view and not try not to be confined by just idealistic thinking, and be a little more intellectual and less emotional.
Right. Now, the whole idea of divide and conquer, this is a big thing right now, because it seems like that's what's happening as we speak. Whether it's race, politics, religion, divide and conquer tool has been implemented in so many different things in our life. This whole thing, as far as Democrat, Republican, it's a big divide and conquer tool right now. Do you think that our government is putting this in place so we can get people just at each other's throats, and maybe hopefully not hopefully, but in the long run, see something like a civil war happen between our country like it did back in the 1800s?
I think it's definitely this whole right versus left. Those are like kind of the two polarizing sides that kind of lend themselves to create that chess game where they can get a population to kind of go against themselves. Because, and you mentioned government, and I want to go back into the whole concept of a globalist corporate oligarchy doing all of this, because if anything, I kind of see it like we may not be happy with our government. We may not be happy with regulations and things like that. But actually, our our government is still, I like to believe, is we still have a voice in that. And the last thing we want is for our government construct for us to implode on ourselves and destroy that. And it comes back to this. It only benefits the corporate controllers of the world that know no borders. You know what I'm saying? They're the ones who own the military industrial complex, private prisons, the prison complexes, the media, and how they send the message and how they control the masses.
Pharmaceuticals, the whole 9 yards.
So it's in their interest for us to create our own social anarchy for them to quell. Because at the end of the day, even if our Constitution, no matter how much people want to preach republic, we're a constitutional republic. Well, that is true to a certain extent, but we are also a corporate democracy. We have been that since the end of the Civil War, and the amendments that have been passed and the way that they are tailored and written. It's like even the 14th Amendment calls on the freed slaves to be voluntary servants to the Constitution. And now, if we're talking about a nation who is run by a private bank, and this gets into all the Federal Reserve topic and everything, and we're all collateral and they take everybody's silver and gold in the 30s to refinance a Federal Reserve private banking system that went in debt from 1910 to 1930.
Yeah.
That's been backed by the petrodollar, that's been through a refinancing, because everybody forgets the only difference between what trickle down economics does is cause a financial collapse like what happened on Reagan's watch. And essentially, like, people tend to forget, he had a stock market crash and they had a banking failure, and they've had to refinance our money and recollateralize it so many times that all these asset holders in the world own it, and who getting back to the point though, who would benefit the most from us having a civil war, or by us having a wall around us like a warehouse, and then we're literally, like what Alex Jones said, we're a prison planet. That's a whole different subject about Alex Jones. I was bringing up about data and stuff earlier, but I'll let you man your show here. I know I know how I could get.
Now, with that being said, as the divide and conquer mechanism that has been put in place, both politicians, I think, have been bought off a long time ago. Who benefits more? I mean, we know Biden's out.
Right.
You throw Kamala Harris in, and she, I mean, it's been a lot of recoil, a lot of backlash on that whole thing with her being nominated. Well, I don't know if she's nominated just yet, but she seems to be the front runner in the nomination as far as the presidential candidate.
Right.
Is she fit to run this country, or am I just freaking out?
You know what? I mean, if it's true what they say about Biden being incompetent, when you look policy wise, it may not be what people want to perceive it as, but I think she's going to do just as well as any other president. You know, I think this isn't partisanship talking, but I think Trump is more damaging and more of a threat to most people in this country, unless you want to be, say, the policing force behind Project 2025, and you don't care what happens to the rest of the population, or you feel like, you're the holier than thou inheritor of America, and that kind of mentality. And sorry, don't mean to be mean to that, or paint with a big brush that entire side, but frankly, that's the guy who certainly has more autocratic ambition as far as being a candidate, and he's the one who benefits the globalist oligarchy more than anybody, which is ironic. This stuff drives me nuts. I swear they listen to my Facebook or watch my Facebook, because you have JD Vance going around talking about the Democrats being controlled by the globalist corporate oligarchy this week. And it's like, are you kidding me? Like, you guys, you have the puppet is your running mate right now. Like, D1 willing to sell. He's a brand name. Trump is a sold, bought brand name. He gets a little kickback for selling access.
Yeah.
That's all he's ever done. It's just ironic he would go around. And it goes back to this whole thing where on that side, they are not tasked with being truthful. And they do project a lot. And it's a lot of times when they start saying these things, it's like, well, say it louder what you're really all about. I mean, because if people get over themselves and just look at the relationships and what's going on, and I mean, to me, I don't like going down that way of thinking that the elections don't matter and we're owned and everything, because really it is. It's all how we respond to it. And that's why I'm not big about having emotional responses. But if I had to choose, I would rather have Kamala Harris running the country than Donald Trump, hands down. And it's just because of that. What I see is the willingness of Trump and the people he appoints and what they're all about, and willing to be a puppet for this corporate oligarchy that exists.
Now, when you said that, I instantly thought of some of the things that she's done in her past, as far as the when she was a district attorney in California, or not California, but just San Francisco, I think it was. She withheld information that had a man on death row.
Yep.
Kept him on death row, and they made her give it up.
Yep.
Just certain things like that. That makes me a little.
Same here. Same here.
Personally, me, and I'm not being misogynistic in any way, but I don't think that she is ready, or like I said, any woman in that case, because it's mostly based on emotion. When they think about things, think about it. It's based on emotions, not logic behind it. Can she do that? Run a country in that sense of the term, being logical or having a rational thought? Because I mean, I don't think she can.
Well, and then because that's something that I don't want to.
That seriously scares me.
Well, I'm a single guy, so I don't want to piss off any of the women watching because I want to remain dateable after this. No, but it's a good question. And even more so, the question is running the country on emotion, and I'm kind of diverting from that a little bit, admittedly. But
That's
no,
fair
but
enough.
then you're talking about somebody being 59 years old, and how much experience do they really have? Are they experienced just because they have the titles? And it's like, okay, she's been, a senator, district attorney, all of the vice president,
Yeah.
and you don't want to discredit it because that's the thing. Because like I don't want to sound like I'm one of these anti DEI hire kind of people because I think at some point people do have merit. You know what I mean? But I would say this, uh, yeah, I mean, now you're comparing, uh, a woman and a woman, characteristically being described as being more emotional as men, and then Trump's a pretty emotional guy.
Oh yeah. He runs
So
on. Yeah,
so
he does
so
too.
that because that's kind of how I weigh it out. Like because I'll hear the things and because gender wise, I mean, we are different. We are all wired different. It's why I don't believe in men or hormonally male people being able to compete against women in swimming and all of that, or it definitely in the sense where the one guy who took the hormone or supplements so that he could compete in women's swimming and things like that. It's like,
And
whoa,
just
come on,
destroyed them all.
yeah. And even with that, I think a woman, and the only reason I compare Trump's emotion in a woman being president, I think you got a team of people. And I think at this point you really don't you don't have one person calling the shots in our government, which is actually one reason I'm not a fan of Donald Trump because he wants to be or at least portray being the shot caller.
Yeah.
And you know, and this is just my personal opinion. In that case, I got to give the nod to Harris, even because I've seen Trump and I've seen who he works for, and people say, "Oh, he works for the American people." Blah blah blah. It's like, no, he sells to the American people, just like
He's a businessman
yeah,
first.
yeah, and not a good one.
No.
And I, so then I got to look at the team, and I thought even with Biden, it's like he picked some pretty interesting characters to for certain positions. Like you might have went a little over the top or a little too uh risque with some of the decisions and some of the appointments. And I'm sure people had some experience and everything, but it's like how much of it was for image
Yeah.
to appease that demographic or not. But then it comes to that other side of it, though. Well, they didn't do as bad of a job as like the right will paint, in the same sense that I mean some of the appointments of Trump's weren't the worst. Even some of the policy wasn't, total, autocratic or total dictatorial kind of decisions at the same time. I mean, I'm not trying to get off track, but I just thought of a comment he said yesterday where he just out. This is the things that I get tired of people dismissing about him is that he says, Christians, if you vote for me, it'll be the last time you have to vote. It'll be the last time he said that. Oh, that's just Trump being Trump. It's like, well, I mean, I don't want to find out the hard way.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And that's where people don't hold him account or hold him to his word. Because even with that said, and I just said, not one person, controls and dictates things. But if he's saying that on behalf, and if these people are puppeted by more powerful entities, which I think that is the presidency. All the presidency is at this point is the head trustee over the Social Security system, which is our money creation system. But at the end of the day, these bigger shot callers, these board members and CEOs of these companies, these non-household names in other countries, and even dare I say the Eric Princes of the world would they have vested interest in things that have nothing to do with our own quality of life as citizens, unless you're going to join the corporate team and have something to benefit them with. It's just, I don't know. I just don't. I don't trust anybody who would say something like that, and I don't trust the side that won't hold people accountable for saying things like that, which includes the media. It's just like whether, and I'm not saying that everybody that wants to be on the MAGA side of things are these nefarious people. It comes back to like what we were just talking about. Are we thinking about this with our upper brain, or are we thinking about it with our lower emotional brain? Like, come on. I mean, what if Kamala Harris went out there and said, if you vote for me this time, you'll never have to vote again? I'll be, it's like that would be completely unacceptable. And I'm sorry. I mean, I in that situation, when you're talking about, the person that we're going to vote to run the country, I take stock in that.
That's a big step for everyone, especially if it's a different president. Now, 2016, when President Trump was nominated, he didn't win by the popular vote.
Right.
I'm still not sure how he won that whole thing.
Right.
Because I was a little upset because Hillary won. So I really don't like Hillary.
Right.
She's an evil person.
No, I wasn't a big fan of her.
Very
either,
evil person. Just her track record alone says a lot about her character.
Right.
Kamala Harris is almost in that same light. Not as bad or nefarious for evil doing, but just I don't know, a cold-hearted person.
Yeah, she definitely doesn't have that Clinton past, huh? The suicided opponents past and things like that, but and that, I guess that's some of the mystery about her. It's really like, even back then, Trump won. And it was like, oh man, he didn't win the popular vote, but it was like
he didn't.
We had not seen
the popular vote twice,
right?
With Biden or Clinton,
which this is a different subject. But everybody that's an election denier, it's like, okay, it's if the guy didn't even win the popular vote the first time he won, why are you blaming the popular vote when he didn't win the election the second time?
Yeah,
and there's fake electors in both elections, but. No, and I just wanted to say, because even with Trump in 2016, I hadn't seen a Trump presidency yet. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So it's like I was even in that mindset. Well, let's give. How bad could it be?
Exactly.
And but then I saw policy wise, he did a very poor job. I mean, his policies led to a global banking crisis where shit hit the fan in September of 2019, and there's all these writings on the wall that it happened. Well, I know. I mean, we were probably going to have a segue into this, but because then you had the COVID crisis happen.
Yeah,
and even part of me, and I don't go down this conspiracy hole too often because the rest of the population isn't there without getting divided politically about it. But I would love to discuss the notion that COVID was ramped up, even though it killed people. People died.
Yeah.
It maybe masks helped. I don't know. I don't believe everything that people demonize Fauci about. The fact of the matter is we were in a global financial crisis at that point. So we can't even discuss that honestly, because then people have to acknowledge that there was failed financial policies happening under the Trump
Did we
administration.
lose money?
Yeah. It's
A certain amount of money was totally lost.
Uh,
During,
that was all kind of going on. I know, like, well, because like for hell froze over that
Yeah.
year. First time tax time ever got postponed, since the inception of the 16th Amendment. It's like fucking all over. But no, it was the banking repo market though. And we were in a cash crunch, and it was because of a number of things, effects from the trade war a little bit, but more the tax breaks and all of these things that went down. And we basically, because the way that whole thing works, it's the banking markets kind of borrow money from AAA or top tier companies and banking institutions overnight and then buy the money back. And even before that, we're in a position where the Treasury is basically giving bonds to the Federal Reserve instead of selling them. Like it was going downhill fast, and even to the point that's what kind of one of the telltale things that something really bad was happening was in December of 2019, Saudi Arabia and Russia sell off all of their oil assets. People will call that like a financial act of war or something like that. It's just no, it's a smart business. The dollar was tanking. That's why everybody's getting into crypto, and all the BRIC nations are like swaying into non-Western financial systems and crypto and the Ripple system and XRP and all of these things. It's stuff people can read about or kind of, and there's a lot of salesmanship, I guess you could say, in a lot of those stories, just like there's a lot of you can read in between the lines about, some of these private stock market websites and advisors you can sign up to, and you see the salesmanship. They're always demonizing even that in a very partisan way, and it's always something that the partisan line lends itself towards the people that are wanting to invest in this globalist corporate oligarchy. Oh, put your money in this, put your money in that. Oh, the evil left is gonna take your money away, even though we've gone 4 years now and there has been a collapse. The people's 401ks are doing better. I know we can't judge the overall scope on things. People bring up inflation and they want to blame the Biden administration, blah blah blah, but there's things, the numbers been brought down, you know what I'm saying, but nobody, and even to get back even with the COVID thing, there's a lot of questions people won't address or ask about what was going on during that period of 2017 to 2020 21. That kind of ratcheted up the volatility of the creation of our money in the first place. So when the country opened back up, opened the floodgates. Like, I mean, the trade war changing a lot about the supply chain that didn't even work its way into effect yet because the country was shut down. And then for that matter, like getting back to COVID and why something that, and personally, I think it was a very, how do you say, a very aggressive flu, and it was something that was affecting the country. But I mean, why not get behind that to shut the country down? I mean, it could have been a thing, you know what I mean? And I mean, and then here we are, and all these the markets tumbling back where they are. They're gonna have to go through their ebb and flow. And look at the emotion it caused in everybody.
Oh man,
you had people getting ready to storm Lansing over masks and everything and mask mandates, and everybody thought, this is it, we're under martial law, and this is the end of freedom as we know it. And a lot of people had a hard time dealing with that, and it was a pretty emotional situation. And then you see how everybody is still kind of emotionally resetting and coming back to normal even 4 years later. Yeah, people are still irate at the governor for something that ended in 2021, in June of 21, or was it June? Yeah, when like the mask
Right.
mandate lifted and
Yeah.
everything starts coming back to
It was
normal.
June 11th.
Yeah,
June
okay.
11th. I
Right.
remember that day perfectly because that's when
Yeah.
I got to go back to work.
Yeah. I remember we hung out the night before night before we went on lockdown.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was drinking Corona that night in celebration of the coronavirus. Oh, back in the drinking days. Anyways,
All right. Now, the latest news: China and Russia flying over Alaska.
oh, I didn't hear about that one yet.
And we intercepted it and got them out of there. What kind of alert does that bring up for the United States if they can fly over Alaska like that?
I mean,
Together. I mean, China and Russia flying
really?
together.
No shit.
Doing I don't know if it was some kind of training or something like that.
Well, and given the time frame, you know, you have to wonder how much of it is political.
Yeah.
There again, you know, we live in a more geopolitical time.
This is the first time flying in our backyard.
Yeah, that's
First time for
like
besides,
jointly, definitely.
Yeah, together.
Yeah.
Doing joint training or whatever. Is it a flag that we should be worried about, or what do you feel about this?
Just shooting from the hip about it, and everything I said about, you know, these people that are trying to puppet the world.
Yeah.
You know, they don't see it in terms of borders. But now we're talking about two governments and flying jointly.
Two hated governments.
Yeah. Well, it
and two that we are practically in competition with as far as certain land masses,
right,
like Taiwan, Ukraine.
Well, because then aside from that, you know, this is where my mind always goes to thinking about this the right wing fascism aspect of this global takeover, and that's the side that the people like Eric Prince are on. That's the side that tends to back the Trumps of the world, or Viktor Orban coming to visit Trump, and so even behind the veil of these nation states, it's kind of like to scare everybody into thinking, or because watch, they'll probably spin it that you know, or the news will then get the concern in the American people's mind. Oh, what will Kamala Harris do against a threat from the world and all of this stuff? Well, we know Trump is strong, you know. Well, Trump's kind of in their back pocket.
Yeah.
You know, he loves Xi, he loves Putin, you know, so I almost think it's like some hyperbole to get the American people scared of a new, you know, of a woman president, of somebody who, you know, they paint the left as being typically weak and whatever, but it kind of falls into the hands of this corporate oligarchy that I think they've chose the side of a fascist approach to one world government, you know. And I mean, that's just my take. I've said for a lot of years, and a lot of the actions that pan out kind of reveal themselves to be, I mean, not too far off target, that there's been this agenda, whether they call the media liberal media agenda and all of this stuff, while it's really corporate, is to get everybody looking to blame the left while they bring in this authoritarianism through the right. Because the authoritarianism can come through communists, it can come through fascists, it can, you know, whatever.
Right.
And I think they found their willing side, you know, the ones that, because to me, you're not going to bring this in through the left. Because I mean, even in the Democratic Party, you watched how quick they were able to turn on Joe Biden, even though everybody's got
It was fast.
Yeah.
I remember hearing about that 2 days before it actually happened.
Right. Where it actually got serious. Because, you know, because he was fighting tooth and nail. And I don't think he has, I, uh, there's a difference between authenticity and truth. There's a difference in my mind, even between honesty and truth. So when I say this, I think Biden, like Trump in his ways, are too authentic about who they are to be able to sit there in front of the cameras and lie and pretend, oh, I'm in it. I'm in it. It's like, I think he really thought he was in it until he finally got pressured, to that. Nah, you got to go. I don't think, I think he probably decided that one in the last couple days. You know what I mean? That's just personal opinion. I've got nothing to state that on. It's just, I watch a lot of different news syndicates. I'll watch Fox. I watch more Fox and more Young Turks or more CNN. I watch the Midas Touch a lot, to get some neutral stuff. But I watch them all. I watch everybody's speeches. I if not in full, I engage into those things. I don't just sit.
Definitely have to be in tune with all that.
Yeah. So Young Turks, is something that Sank said. He's like, oh, Trump is authentic. I'm not saying he's honest, but he's authentic. I was like, that's kind of the way I look at truth versus honesty. It's like, if you don't know what the hell you're talking about, you can be as honest as you want. But if you don't know the truth, it's kind of useless. It's like, that's what he was saying about Trump's authenticity. And that's why I kind of applied it to Biden too. And is it like I don't think they're all as great of actors as sometimes when people are painting conspiracy theories. They try to say, or like that everything is so puppeted and orchestrated by these statesmen or, or the people they put in front of a camera. There's a reason why they put them in front of the camera. But part of it is because they are going to be who they are. You know what I'm saying? And they know that. So they use them, because the people that are pulling the strings aren't going to be able to be so. And so with Trump, people like his authenticity. Oh, he tells it like it is. Well, that doesn't mean he's got your interest in mind. And that's why I kind of make that comparison. It doesn't necessarily mean that somebody like Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, any of them don't have their own interest in mind when they're talking these things. We have to kind of look at where they're coming from. So to get back to the question you asked, this flyover, it's like, I know I go around in a lot of circles with this stuff, but I'm telling you, there's a reason why, even with the impeachment, why it's Russia, Russia, Russia. And they'll say, oh, well, it's the left blaming Russia. Well, the right hasn't stopped talking about Russia, Russia, Russia. Why? Because it's in their interest to have everybody looking at this war between nation states when their puppet masters are going to come in and they're, like I said, trying to get on the lifeboat. It's just something. I don't have the answers to all of that, but it is something that people have to, make sure that they're keeping on their mind when they're thinking about what's really going on. Now, what that could mean, I know how that could play out in the theater. Like there again, talk about the financial situation going on in the world, in the BRIC countries versus the Western banking system and all these things that are happening. It's good theater. But, I mean, what does that mean for us? It's another reason to get us to kind of divide ourselves on what we believe on that, but then get back to the subject of media as we discussed it today. All right. So what media source are you going to go to try to get your facts, and how willing are you to dig underneath the surface of that media to do any homework, or where does your idealism stop you from questioning things? So, I mean,
it's a lot of variations, a lot of things to think about. The political landscape is very, very, very much like a spider web. It has different layers, like an onion, the whole 9 yards. I mean, man, I'm a little nervous about this whole thing because I don't know how it's going to play out. Trump may win, and if Kamala Harris wins, they call his whole campaign a failure because she only had a certain amount of time to prepare for this, and he should win by a landslide.
Right.
2016, Trump scared the shit out of me, and I thought this country was going to go to shit, but it did. He actually did some good things. There were some solid things that he helped out with, as far as the country goes. But the second term, if he wins this scares me a little bit more. Not because I'm a Democrat, because I'm not. Neither or.
Right.
Republican or Democrat.
Same here.
I try to weigh out and balance everything that they say. I want to hear their speeches. I want to listen to what their policies may entail. And both sides don't appeal to me at all. But you also get this thing where if you don't vote, people will label you, well, you didn't vote, you don't have a right to say anything.
Right.
Okay, fair enough. I don't have a right to say anything, but I will say something, because that's a part of the Constitution. You should be able to speak freely about what you think.
Oh yeah. But
you're also criticized thoroughly if you don't vote.
Yeah.
So with that being said, I think we should have more than just two parties to choose from.
Right.
And I'm not talking about the independent, because the independent, they don't get anything out of it.
Right.
Because their votes go to a certain side.
Yeah.
More or less, if we had more people to choose from, maybe, I don't know, it'd be a little more intriguing.
Yeah.
Because like I said, these guys are bought and paid for.
Right.
By lobbyists, big companies.
Yep.
To do their will and give them the tax breaks, the willingness to get away with things that normal people can't get away with. It's scary, and as far as the people should be concerned too, instead of going gung ho for one side or the other.
Right. And
there's been a lot of that over time, and it's been going on for a long time.
Yeah, I think because the thing that really, it's not that I'm so accepting to the fact that each party is kind of its own corporation, like you said. I mean, there's really not, in terms of that part of the structure, it is hard to sit here and say that, there's the kind of freedom that America is supposed to be about. And what gets, I guess, kind of the scary part for me, I guess, is this. I guess what it is the idea that people would rather have anarchy versus trying to work the issues out within the system that we do have. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't think to pick one of those sides or kind of at least align with the side that you're gonna get yourself into game to try to make it more of what we want it to be versus just throw out the baby with the bathwater. It like basically just hand it to this globalist one world government or anything like that. So when it comes down to that, I kind of look, well, who's offering more choice, I guess, for people, or who's trying to limit certain factions of the population less than the other. It's horrible that we are in this situation. You mentioned the independents too, because it's like even RFK. Did you see the phone call with Trump and all of that where he called him up? Yeah. Well, and I did this painting months ago that ended up being kind of true because it's cheeky and fun, but it's RFK with a worm coming out of his head, whispering in his ear with a MAGA hat on. Because I do my homework and I'm like looking at where the money's going. I was like, oh, all these MAGA donors are giving a lot of money to RFK. So you know that they're trying to influence the mindset of the independent voter. Yeah. And kind of pick them up. But then it's up to the individual, though. You know what I'm saying?
It's still left in their hands to make that choice.
Yeah, because I don't want to say that everybody's so naive or like to pick on anybody. But at the same time, they must have thought that that RFK and talking about anti-vax and his whole message would kind of round up, and it goes back to what I said about how they built MAGA. You get these small factions that kind of be agreeable with each other, but maybe their hatred of the left would bring them together to come over to Team Trump versus have the lose, vote for the losing cause as an independent that we know. And going back to what you said, I believe I'm one of these people that I don't care if you vote or not, because I understand that for a lot of people to not vote is a form of civil disobedience. And I respect that. Now, personally, that's why I always write myself in as president. So that when people, I'm serious. The last 3 elections, I've wrote myself in because I have these debates. I actually have more debates and talks with people I prefer to face and when I'm out and about.
Yeah.
I get pulled into the bullshit on Facebook every now and then, but that's why, because if anybody tries to pull that card on me, or even if they say, oh, you voted for Biden, it's like, no, I wrote myself in. And they're like, oh, and I'm like, and for that matter, if you come at me on liberal points, you're already losing the argument with me, because you're already coming at me like I'm on a partisan stance at that point. And then for me, with that said, it's not even like trying to win an argument or try, it's about being right. It's like, man, let's look at what's correct about this. You know what I'm saying? And chances are, if anybody's coming from an idealistic stance on it, they're going to be wrong about some stuff, or they're going to be defending, over defending, or not looking for a higher truth about it all. So just to get back to the election, with all that said, it's kind of like, I don't like how limiting or how counter it is to the stability of people in general in this country, the way Project 2025 is, and or even the dishonesty, like, somebody that their whole premise in their campaign, they don't even have to tell the actual truth. They can just kind of sell. And he can't have a discussion about policy, because then it's over. It's all about selling to the feelings of the people that want to believe in this traditional American dream as we know it. It's like, at some point we have to evolve and look at the way things are right now. And and I'm not one to try to convince anybody to vote any one way or the other. I mean, I'm probably going to write myself in as president again this year. So it's one, because, it's a popular vote versus electoral. I do feel like when you're talking about 160 million votes and trying to which doesn't guarantee the victor in most cases anyways, they're going to try to buy the 538 electoral votes in the delegates that make up that deciding body. And so it's kind of like that. I mean, we can sit here and bicker with each other about who we're going to vote for and fall into their divide and conquer mentality, but it's all how we respond to that. And I'll say this real quick too. It depends on if you decide you're going to vote for Trump and that whatever, that's not the big thing. It's like, how willing are you going to be to police Project 2025 if you're in this MAGA camp? Are you willing to be so self-righteous or so this infallible air of superiority and moral code over the rest of the country that you would be willing to be the equivalent of the SS or a Gestapo police on behalf of that agenda? Because to pull that agenda off, you gotta become very sadistic. You have to become a very nasty version of yourself for somebody else's ideals. And I just don't see that coming in the same way from the other side of that. You know what I'm saying? I hate to make it either or. That's just the way I see it. I know what I would rather. I would rather people have choice. I say you're either for freedom for everybody, freedom for everybody to make these decisions and not restrict them, or you're not, and that's just kind of my take on it.
All right, this is where we get down to our last minute of the conversation. We do final thoughts, guys. Final thoughts. All right, Eric, I'm going to start with you. Your final thought.
Getting under the table.
Your final thought on the presidential election. Give it your best shot.
Oh man, it's gonna be interesting. I don't even know how to feel this. I mean, I know what to expect from one side. I know from the new presumptive nominee on the left. It's like, don't get caught up in the hype. There's a lot of excitement and everything, but you gotta look at policy. And I would even say, as far as all of us as individuals, man, just take a step back and do things in camaraderie and friendship with each other. There's a lot, and I don't want to sound like I'm on the bandwagon of turning down the heat and rhetoric and everything, but there is a way to disagree without having so much malice and hatred towards each other. I mean, we have to get back as a country the way we were before 9/11. I know I made a joke, but it's like the days of a movie like How High, or just being able to like joke and have a sense of humor about ourselves. It like has really affected how we deal with politics. And at the end of the day, we're all in the same boat, man. So I just say, and I try to practice what I preach and not turn this crotchety old guy now that I'm, into my mid 40s, and not fall into that. But, share the love. We got to love each other, man. Just shit. Don't let it turn you down the road of hatred and self-righteousness and, too much pride to be able to just, be a little vulnerable with our fellow brethren in this world.
All right, guys. This is my final thought on this whole presidential election. We have a choice. We definitely have a choice. It's a big choice. These two candidates are, I don't know, I would say the lesser of two evils. But at the same time, we still have a choice. Go out there and make the right choice. Like Eric said, follow the policies. See what they're talking about. What are they going to do to help? And sometimes I know it feels like that these policies are just something to talk about and something that you may not agree with, or may not even think they'll follow through with in the end. But just give it your best shot. Keep an open mind. Have open discussions with your friends, and try not to be at each other's throats. It's a big decision, and I know everybody's against each other, Democrats and Republicans alike. But just try to have an open mind, and open heart when it comes to deciding and even talking about it. Well,
we're all Americans, damn it,
America. Yeah. All right, guys. That's the 28th episode of Third Eye Truth There and Podcast. I want to thank Eric Bradford for stopping by. I appreciate his help. And not only that, I appreciate his input on the whole 9 yards, because he gets into it. I appreciate it, brother.
Thank you.
I also want to thank my buddy Zach over here for running the show behind the scenes. I appreciate you, brother. Our next episode, 29, was cut short because of my it was my fault, more or less. I didn't tell the guy how to do the things behind the scenes, so we didn't get the video. But we will have that up shortly. Episode 30 is coming up Monday, guys. Tune in, because we're going to talk about some good stuff. And then we have episode 31 on Wednesday with Travell Nolan and our old friend Douglas McNutt. This should be fun. You guys tune in to the next episode, please, and thank you. Till next time, guys, we will see you later. All right. Sounds good. Got that in. All right, you can go ahead and engine up.